Listen to this. This is Yale School of Management Senior Associate Dean for Leadership, Jeffrey Sonnenfeld, on CNBC explaining that there are 0 Fortune 500 CEOs who are supporting Donald Trump. They've all turned against Donald Trump, and here's why. Let me play this clip, then let's discuss it. Play it.
We look back into the data, and we're looking at this now for the last 4 months. We've been pointing out that there are no Fortune 500 CEOs who are supporting former President Trump, and that is a historic break going back to William Howard Taft and through Calvin Coolidge and Ronald Reagan and the Bushes and everything. Is that it's been anywhere from 40 to 60% public and financial support. It's 0 now. And it was 0 in 2016. And the Trump economic package frightens them. It's extremely inflationary. The tariffs, 10% across the board on all imports, that's just crazy. It leads to a 3% increase for sure in inflation and plunging in the GDP. Right. And that's before retaliatory gestures. The increase in the deficit, he wants to cut $5 trillion of taxes with no commensurate cut in expenditures. So these are problems. He doesn't believe in the independence.
But what do you say? What do you say to the CEOs? There's a lot of CEOs who are watching us now, probably watching you speaking, saying, "But you know what? I don't like the Biden administration when it comes to the regulatory regime right now. I worry about the tax policy and what's going to happen if the Trump taxes roll off in 2025 and what that debate looks like." I mean, there are folks, as you said, 70% of the CEO community, Republicans. Do they turn out to be reluctant Biden voters? Do they not vote at all? I mean, where do you think they land?
They'll be reluctant Biden voters. They don't want the fabric of society pulled apart.
Well, one of the qualities of leadership is taking accountability. For Donald Trump, the debate is rigged. The 2020 election is rigged. The 2022 election is rigged. Academy Awards, the Emmys, the Pulitzers, the Trump University case, the E. Jean Carroll case, election lawsuits, criminal trials, Rudy trial, Bannon and Navarro trials, January 6th committee, civil fraud trials, all polls that don't show him in the lead. They're rigged. Everything is rigged according to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is also posting the following, which I'm sure business leaders think is the essence of capitalism, saying that they should lose their jobs if they don't support a dictator. Here's what Donald Trump posted. Business executives and shareholder representatives should be 100% behind Donald Trump. Anybody that's not should be fired for incompetence. That sounds a whole lot like fascism to me. That sounds a whole lot like the government intervening and going after people just because they don't support you. And look, we've seen Donald Trump make a fool of himself recently before business leaders when he was speaking in Washington, D.C. a few weeks back, where he talked about how he hated the city of Milwaukee, and he went on a rant about Hannibal Lecter again. And he talked about how he may have been in a romantic relationship with Nancy Pelosi if things were different. Just an incredibly bizarre speech. Here, that same CNBC host went on MSNBC Morning Joe and talked about how all of the CEOs said that Donald Trump was meandering and he couldn't get a single coherent thought out. But you know that from watching the MeidasTouch Network, because we cover his speeches. Nothing he says makes sense at all. Here, play this clip.
Andrew, more takeaways from Trump's meeting with business leaders. What was the reception like?
Well, it was interesting. I spoke to a number of the CEOs who were at that meeting yesterday, a number of whom, frankly, had been predisposed to President Trump, in fact, former President Trump. And they walked away from that meeting, I think, a bit disheartened, a bit questioning, I don't want to say his mental fitness, but questioning just how meandering, in some cases, one said to me, he could not keep a thought straight. He would go in one direction and then he'd go in another direction, and that there wasn't really necessarily a through line to the way he spoke or what even he was talking about. At one point, and you described it earlier, he discussed his plans to bring the tax rate down from the corporate tax rate down from 21% to 20%. And apparently at some point in the meeting was asked about why he had chosen 20%. And he said, well, it's a round number. And I think that unto itself had a number of CEOs shaking their head, given that 1% of the total tax burden on the country is actually a huge number in terms of what is needed to support the revenue for this country. So while I do think that there are policies and major policy differences between President Biden and the former President Trump, and that many in the business community think ultimately that some of the policies that President Trump would enact may very well be better, at least for business, than the ones that President Biden has on offer. I think there was a concern about whether we were going to see a similar movie to the last presidency, where there were so many different issues that came up and made their jobs not easier, but ultimately harder.
You know, one of the things that Donald Trump talks about over and over again, and he doesn't know the way tariffs work, and tariffs are inflationary, the same way when Donald Trump gave tax cuts to billionaires and didn't have a way to pay for it, and then recklessly printed money, Donald Trump added about 30% of all debt in United States history to the United States. As Trump likes to proclaim, he's the king of debt. He's also the king of bankruptcies because he doesn't know how to handle debt. And he brought our country into massive, massive debt. But here's Donald Trump in a recent speech he gave in Philadelphia, and he's trying to explain tariffs. He doesn't know how tariffs work. He goes, I tariffed them. I tariffed China. And then he goes, I'm a nice genius. I'm a nice genius. I mean, some weird stuff. Here, play the clip.
They're looking for hope. They're tired of being called stupid people all over the world. 4 years ago, we were so respected, and now we're being laughed at. I took hundreds of billions of dollars away from China. One of these fakers up there said, he didn't take any money from China. Tariffs. I tariffed them for hundreds of billions of dollars. He said, the American people paid. No, China paid. And the American people didn't pay for it at all. They didn't pay for it. You know, they always find a reason. They're genius in a certain way, but they're evil genius, very bad genius. I'm nice genius, you know, I'm a nice genius.
Hey, Ben Meiselas here. Sorry to interrupt that video, but want to spend a brief moment talking about our climate. I think it's important. Let me just show you what President Biden has to say about the climate. Play this clip.
Look, but we're acting now. We have been acting. We've come to the point where it's foolish for anyone to deny the impacts of climate change anymore.
Let me show you what Donald Trump has to say about the climate. Play the clip.
So I got rid of the Paris Accord. I did a lot of things having to do with not only people, but tremendous amounts of money, because the Paris Accord was so unfair.
Let me show you what voters are saying about the climate. Play the clip.
Joe Biden. Oh, just because, honestly, I think he's doing a better job than people give him credit for. And he's got a lot done on infrastructure. I believe climate change is real. He's actually done something on it, which almost nobody else has.
Judge for yourself, folks. Climate change is real. It's important that we address it. It's important that we talk about it. We're going to continue to talk about it here on the MeidasTouch network. Now, let's get back to the previous video you were watching. Let's not forget that Donald Trump was also trying to shut down the government for year after year. And fortunately, President Biden managed to navigate around that while Donald Trump was ordering all of his MAGA Republicans to throw our country into a Great Depression, because Donald Trump thought that that would be a winning issue for him to run on. And here, Democratic Congressmember Jim McGovern, this was when Donald Trump was trying to shut down everything. And McGovern was like, look, I know these MAGA Republicans want to shut it down. They want to hurt us. They want to harm the economy because Trump's telling them to do that. Here, play this clip.
The way this place is being run is just so absurd. It is pathetic. We are facing a partial government shutdown by the end of next week. The extreme MAGA Freedom Caucus is once again eager to shut it down. Now, maybe they think a shutdown will help crash the economy, like Donald Trump has said he wants. The leader of the Republican Party spent the week praying for the economy to collapse because he thinks it will help him win the election in November. Imagine that. And that really illustrates the difference between Democrats and Republicans. We want America to succeed no matter who is in charge because we love this country and we put people over politics. But Republicans led by Trump are cheering for America to fail and for everyone to suffer because they think it will help them politically. What a sick, twisted, messed up ideology. They are literally cheering for America to fail. And I guess they think that maybe if they shut down the government, that will help. I heard that the current speaker was on the telephone with Donald Trump, basically begging him to support the deal to fund the government. Because, let's be honest, that's who runs this place. Donald Trump and the MAGA extremists who worship him.
And also, if you're a business leader, take a look at Donald Trump's record of running businesses into the ground. In addition to being a convicted felon, in addition to being found liable for sexual assault, in addition to having his organization found guilty of felony tax fraud, in addition to having his CFO being a felon multiple times over, Donald Trump has declared bankruptcy many, many times through his organizations. So in Donald Trump's public filings, he has to list it. Here's an example from one of the recent disclosures that Donald Trump was obligated to make. Just think about this. Entities associated with Trump have filed for bankruptcy protection. The Trump Taj Mahal, which was built and owned by Trump, filed for Chapter 11 in 1991. The Trump Plaza, the Trump Castle, and the Plaza Hotel, all owned by Trump at the time, filed for Chapter 11 in 1992. THCR, which was founded by Trump in 1995, filed for Chapter 11 in 2004. Trump Entertainment Resorts, the new name given to Trump Hotels and Casino after the 2004 bankruptcy, declared bankruptcy in 2009. While all of the foregoing were different, it's possible that Trump's future businesses may be run into the ground like those. Then they go into the different licensing deals that Donald Trump did. Trump Shuttle, out of business. Trump University, out of business amid lawsuits. Trump Vodka, out of business. Trump Mortgage, out of business. GoTrump.com, Trump Steaks, the Trump Cologne, all of these, Trump Mortgage, all this stuff out of business, because Trump can't run things. Now, Donald Trump would not be able to get the position of a CEO or management or C-level exec or anything, big corporation, medium-sized corporation, small organization, yet he is the leader of the Republican Party. Oftentimes, Republicans are the ones who say, we should run things like a business. America should be run like a business. Well, that's how Trump runs things, into the ground, an utter disaster. And what? Did the deep state use a time machine and go back in the past and destroy everything that Donald Trump did in the past? Did the deep state make Donald Trump become friends with Jeffrey Epstein and party with him while bankrupting things? Was that what the deep state has, a time machine? Come on, people. But it's good to see that some of these business leaders are turning against Trump. By the way, when you saw the framing of that interview too in the first clip I played you, where the CNBC was like, but the regulatory regime, aren't some CEOs worried about that? And the Yale professor was like, Trump's going to destroy there's not going to be an economy. There's not going to be business with Donald Trump. This guy's an utter failure. And the economy's thriving. What do CEOs have to hold their nose for now? What, that they can't get 10 yachts, they could only get 9. They can't get 10 private jets, they could only get 5. They can't have 20 mansions, they could only have 8 to 10 massive mansions. They can't get that extra mansion because they just have to pay their workers a little bit more. And that's what's so devastating. What are we talking about here? Anyway, hit subscribe. Let's get to 3 million together. Thanks for watching.
Enough! Send him to the big house, not the White House. Get the new exclusive tees, mugs, and stickers right now at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.